On va être mieux d'enregistrer la spéciale pool à ce moment-là pour chercher nos images.
On n'aura pas le temps.
Parce que
The Americans are coming.
les seules équipes qui vont être permis de tourner à l'intérieur sont membres du pool, tu vois?
Because the only teams that will be allowed to film inside are members of the pool. You see, once the cassettes have arrived, we have to roll.
C'est fait depuis les...
Martin, we better take the images that come out on the air during the special, because we'll have to take them from the first half hour.
Pendant le spécial, parce que
Except, I don't know how far the special will go to look for a shot of Reagan and Mulroney. I don't know what they're looking for, but I imagine with the Shamrock Summit, especially if they're singing, they sing at the beginning, the anthem. There are the national anthems.
Ils chantent au début l'antenne.
No, because Raymond Saint-Pierre told us in his topo Friday night that Reagan and Mulroney might well sing an Irish song. Yes, yes. Maybe at the end of the show, up on the stage. Except we won't have time to get that shot.
Mais sauf qu'on n'aura pas le temps de le prendre, ce shot-là. Non, ils ont une première rencontre, ils ont un premier meeting d'à peu près 1 heure.
No, there's a first meeting of about an hour. What it'll be on is the first declaration that'll be made afterwards, those things. That's Le Sard. Raymond Saint-Pierre is the events of the day. Arrival at 3:30, then they retired to their apartments at the Chateau, then in the evening they left for the Grand Théâtre where the show will be, blah, 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 blah. Gilles Morin is the security, demonstration and sidelines aspect.
Est-ce que vous parlez français?
Do you speak French?
Bon. Faire juste
Yes.
une petite entrevue.
Can we do a little interview? Okay, up a little. Tell me when you're ready.
Tenir encore à bout de bras, ok.
Notice how this interview is conducted, and the general tone and direction of the questions asked.
Alors pourquoi la manifestation aujourd'hui du groupe
Now, why are the anti-nuclear groups demonstrating today?
Nos attitudes contre la guerre nucléaire, les armements en général.
To express our attitudes in opposition to nuclear war, arms in general, the vast sums of money that are spent on arms which could be spent on social programs to improve our quality of life, quantities of arms and the possibility of a nuclear war between the USSR and the United States.
Les USSR et les États-Unis.
Est-ce que vous suivez souvent le...
Do you often follow the movements of President Reagan or American political figures to protest against? Follow them?
Est-ce que vous suivez
Do you follow the movements of Americans, demonstrations?
Est-ce que nous suivons? Oui.
Do we follow them?
quel genre de
Yes.
manifestation vous avez fait avant aujourd'hui?
What kind of demonstrations have you attended before today?
Manifestation contre.
We had several demonstrations against, for example, the cruise missile. Last year in Montreal, we had 20,000 people who demonstrated against the cruise and the role of Canada in the potential for nuclear war. Excuse me,
Le potentiel de guerre nucléaire, disons. Excuse-moi.
Est-ce que vous êtes plusieurs à manifester aujourd'hui?
are there a lot of you here today demonstrating against nuclear arms?
Je ne peux pas vous dire ça. Je pense que.
I really couldn't say. I think there are 5 or 6 different groups which are here. Those against arms, those are against for the environment, etc., etc.
Mais dans votre groupe, est-ce
But
que
in your
c'est un
group,
genre de
is it a
manifestation
kind of peaceful demonstration that you want to hold?
C'est toujours pacifique.
What kind of demonstration?
Comment, à part de marcher,
Always peaceful, yes.
porter des pancartes, est-ce que
Besides marching and carrying signs, do you do other things? Personally, yes. I participate. I write letters to politicians. I work in elections. I do what I can do in our democracy. Thanks. Could I have your name, please?
Radio Canada did not use the interview. They filmed with Wayne Morrell. But Wayne was also interviewed by a local, English-speaking CBC affiliate station, which showed their interview with him in Montreal.
How was your interview? Was this English CBC you were talking to?
English CBC.
Yeah? How did you feel about the... Are you used to being interviewed by the media?
I've been interviewed a number of times during demonstrations, radio And television, not frequently television, but radio previously. In the last anti-cruise demonstration, in fact, in Montreal.
Why is it that they single you out?
I don't know. The last time my mustache was a lot longer, and I always managed to carry a sign. Perhaps they like the signs.
How did your interview go just now? I noticed they were just talking to you.
It was a nice, concise, to-the-point interview.
Uh-huh.
One question which I attempted to answer as well as I could, and they seemed to be satisfied. That was it. Because they have a lot of film to shoot.
Do you think it'll make it to the news?
I think my friend's comment will make it to the news because he stated that he's not a radical, and they like to hear that coming from a mature individual.
How do you think they decide what goes on to the news and what doesn't?
It's an interesting question. I guess it depends upon the station, the network, and on the more commercial ones, who they're trying to please or not to offend. And I guess they all have editorial policies, of course, which lean certain directions. I'm not being a filmmaker, I'm not quite 100% sure of the editing process.
They do have policies, and they have notions of objectivity.
That's right.
The CBC news crew that we were not allowed to follow did not do any interviews with those who were here protesting Reagan's visit. The Radio Canada crew only made 2 very brief interviews, neither of which they showed on television. This crew did not seem to be very interested in the demonstrators themselves. They never engaged them in conversation, and they tended to remain isolated from them, often taking positions near the police.
Moi, j'ai l'impression là, que rendu à l'hôtel de ville, là, ça va commencer...
In the detailed analysis we prepared of the summit television coverage, which is available as a written report, we noted that the total airtime given by the CBC to the public during the summit to express their opinions was 0.3% of the total television coverage, and much of that minute percentage had nothing to do with the summit. The amount of coverage given by the CBC to those of the public who were protesting Reagan's visit was precisely 0.
Do you feel the news is objective?
No.
What do you
Really?
think their bias is?
Well, their bias is to North American capitalist system, without sounding like a left-wing nut, but obviously they want to present a certain party line, if I may use the expression. And now many of the television stations, as you know, buy film clips from other networks. A lot of the Canadian networks use American film clips. So obviously the slant coming out of the American stations on Central America, for example, or on Soviet behavior or whatever, is going to be somewhat different from what it might be if the news had originated with a Canadian crew.
As well as not showing the interview with Wayne Morrell, Radio Canada did not show the sign held by his friend, which reads, "Canada's foreign policy sucks." We now begin a series of international television evening newscasts filmed around the world during the same 2 days that President Reagan visits Canada.
Hello, good evening.
Grafton?
Guten Abend, verehrte Zuschauer. Ich begrüße Sie zur Heute-Sendung.
イラン・イラク戦争の激化に伴い、イランの日本人会はイランからの脱出など対応策の検討を始めました。老人医療費の負担を定めた老人保険法の見直しが始まりました。今日は久しぶりに晴れ間が広がり、4月中旬の暖かさで穏やかな彼岸の入りになりました。
こんばんは。
The National with Peter Mansbridge.
Good evening from Quebec City, the site of what's officially called the Quebec Summit, but what's informally being called everything from the Shamrock Summit to the Blarney Summit. The Prime Minister of Canada and the President of the United States, both of Irish descent, here together on St. Patrick's Day.
Boys and girls, the one and only Nuki. Hi, kids, and good evening.
Good evening.
Occasionally. Such as in history class when we are talking about war, but rarely in ordinary life. You heard about it directly from your grandparents. Yes.
いろいろ直接聞いたことがあります？
はい、あります。
例えば？
さっきのおばあちゃんの話なんですけど。
For instance, what Grandma was talking about a few moments ago.
隣に住んでた人が。
When her neighbor came home, his head injury was infested with maggots, and they had to be taken out with chopsticks, one by one. And about a week later, he fell to his death from the top of the stairs, shouting, "I hate Americans."
階段の上から転がり落ちて死んだとか、そういう話を聞いたことあります。
It's so nice to be here and have this opportunity to talk to you. It was my boss's idea, and you know I have many bosses, to have me speak to you on their behalf, because lately they have been getting kind of bad press, like the grown-ups like to say. So it was their idea that I have this heart-to-heart little talkie with you, to assure you that it is not true what you've been hearing about them and me. You know, my bosses have children too, nice little children, just like yourselves, and there is no way that they will ever think of harming you, my little friends. All that my bosses think about is you and your future. All that they want is the very best for you, and of course for your mommies and daddies too.
$298.5 million.
Krek och kun Peter gangpa kanala kaljehul likiak tang hatulus kun deg grun.
The B-29 bomber, carrying the nuclear weapon that destroyed Hiroshima, took off from the airfield at Tinian, in the Marianas Islands, in the Pacific. The journey began at 0245 hours on August the 6th, 1945, timed to arrive at Hiroshima when the morning rush hour would be at its busiest. In a schoolhouse on a peninsula to the northeast of the airport, we organized a community meeting in the Gaelic language.
One of the things that has been a cause for debate has been land, particularly how the Ministry of Defense has land throughout the islands. If you look at the map behind me, those black measles are in the places where the ministry has an interest, and it is quite frightening when you see it, the amount they have.
We were told afterwards that this was one of the very first times that such an informal community meeting had been held in Gaelic to discuss the nuclear arms race. The Gaelic language and the culture is under continual threat and pressure, and it is felt that the growing militarization of the Western Islands greatly increases that threat. These are cutaways I put in to show the faces of the listeners and to condense the main scene.
One would think that the MOD come in stealthily through the night. When one wakes up in the morning, there is a balloon or some other devilish contraption on the top of the hill. Well, there are more of them with every passing year, that's for sure. If we are to be a member of NATO, you must realize that we need defenses and that the Western Isles Council has no authority to become involved with NATO business. We have been a part of NATO since Clement Attlee set it up with President Truman, and we must accept all we get from it, and what we have to do to defend us.
NATO organized Truman. President Truman was in America economic. Is has never been NATO where von Washington Swedish Coalish Hulkal Yoshin Sehitiano is one of Gian and the Lewis now the news not got be Kamia. Rocket range so here on the news.
There is a rocket range in Eust, and many of the local people work there. They would not want to see it go. There was vociferous protest when it was first established. Probably that is how it will be nationwide also. It does not matter how many protesters there are. The majority of the people are supportive of everything that is done to defend us.
Is na fai ha vaart die leper gestach en doe ik aan de falen met je maroch. Wie gaat dit janu neurut aan de concerten zit janu draast.
You are therefore saying that neither we nor anybody else have the right to question what NATO is doing? You may question, but this development must go ahead. Most of the population is behind this policy. That is nonsense. To say that the majority of people are in favor. And another thing, you were talking about when the Second World War ended. At that time, they began to release atomic bombs. They said to the people in America near their test site in the Nevada desert that everything was all right. And to support that assertion, they made soldiers go up close to the ground zero. All these people are dropping dead today. But they were assured at the time that everything was going to be all right.
Ha golde toen je aan tuintje een tweetje maar avenue. Figet bleon station. Na goed dat ruin oorsen krogelde kalori. Ta. Shoot the shoes, hala shoes so aan hutte. Challenging aan tuintje krogelde kalori.
They knew everything was not all right. Augustine, aren't you afraid for your husband? What he has just said about atomic pollution? Yes, of course. It's frightening, the evil effects on him. We have children. I'm afraid they will be affected by those evils.
One of the graphs I showed the families around the world was a representation of the amount of nuclear explosive power on the planet today. 15 billion tons of high explosive equivalent in the nuclear arsenals of the United States and the Soviet Union. By comparison, the single dot in the center represents all the explosive power of World War II. There are at least 5,000 such dots on this graph. And this graph does not include the explosive power of the British, French, Chinese, Israeli, Indian, and possibly South African nuclear arsenals. Neither does it take into account forthcoming nuclear arsenals from such countries as Pakistan, Brazil, and Argentina.
La France a la 5e dépense militaire au monde. Et elle est de l'ordre de 2000 milliards de francs.
France is the 5th country in the world for military expenses. 2,000 billion French francs. What is your feeling about this? Well, it's true that we don't know these figures enough. People should be made aware. This can be achieved through education. I'm a teacher and I think, what can we do? What can I do in my everyday life so that youngsters are aware of the serious questions? Not only the atomic bomb, but the many other questions too. Do we speak of the rights of man? Do we speak of all the dangers in front of us? I don't think so. The physics book, for instance, we'll find just a few lines about nuclear energy, and I think the problem's there. What can we do? Have the teachers, has the government the will to? I don't think so. These pictures, lots of people had just never seen them. The media doesn't mention a word. There's a blockage on the information level. We should wonder why.
Oui, moi je suis lycéenne, on n'en parle jamais au lycée des problèmes de la bombe atomique, du nucléaire.
I'm a schoolgirl.
On n'en parle pas du tout.
I can tell you they never talk at school of the nuclear bomb, of nuclear energy.
Moi je trouve c'est dommage, bien sûr, mais il n'y a aucun effort qui est fait.
It's kept quiet. It's not spoken about at all. I'm practically ignorant of all these things. It's a pity, but just no effort is being made.
Ich glaube, gerade weil es so unfassbar ist, deshalb setzt man sich nicht mehr mit Zahlen auseinander. Da sind Zahlen überhaupt nicht mehr wichtig.
I think just because it is so incredible, that's why you can't deal with figures or numbers anymore. They've ceased to be important. It is now possible to destroy the world several times. That's why nobody deals with figures anymore. And I don't think this is the problem.
Weil das so unfassbar geworden ist für den Menschen. Deshalb wird sich da mit Zahlen nicht mehr auseinandergesetzt. Ich selbst wusste auch nicht mehr genau oder konnte nicht genau sagen, diesen Satz an Sprengköpfen, der vorhanden ist. Ich glaube, da setzt sich auch heute keiner mehr mit auseinander. Und ich glaube auch nicht, dass das jetzt so das Problem ist.
Ich denke mir, ihr beide müsstet eigentlich an eure Zukunft und an all so etwas mehr denken.
I always think you two should be thinking of your future. We have, in a way, lived our lives. But the young people should be thinking of their future. And they don't do it now.
Wollt ja noch den größten Teil eures Lebens erstmal vollbringen.
I know it is not possible for them.
Die Jugend eigentlich mehr denken müsste und sie tut es nicht, aber ich weiß, es geht auch gar nicht.
Die Jugend würde, glaube ich, schon ganz gerne daran denken und die würde auch
I have the feeling that young people are so loaded with problems, sometimes uncontrollable problems, such as how can I find an education or employment? How can I organize my personal life to simply exist?
Aufgaben bzw. Situationen konfrontiert, dass sie zunächst erstmal dran denkt, als Beispiel, wie kann ich eine Berufsausbildung bekommen, wie kann ich einen Arbeitsplatz erlangen,
selbstständig werden.
Ja, und wie kann ich erstmal mein persönliches Leben existenzmäßig festigen.
Obwohl diese Gedanken unmöglich eigentlich sind, wenn du dir überlegst, dass
These thoughts are actually impossible when you think that in the end it is your very existence that is concerned. With the problem of the atomic bomb, it is not the problem of finding a place to work, but simply and primitively, it is a question of your existence.
Ganz einfach und primitiv die Existenz. Und eigentlich müsste man sich von daher zuerst darum Gedanken machen und nicht um deine kleine Zukunft, der kleine Ausschnitt deiner Zukunft, deiner persönlichen Zukunft.
Müsste so sein, aber es ist leider nicht so.
Ja, sicher.
Denn die Situation ist ja doch immer noch so, dass das Naheliegende das größte Problem darstellt und das...
It should be like that, but unfortunately it isn't. Because as long as there are negotiations, or as long as they talk with one another, we don't have to worry about these things.
Naja, solange wie ja verhandelt wird, da ist ja, solange wie man miteinander spricht, da ist ja dieses Problem erstmal nicht gelöst, sondern da ist dieses Problem ja erstmal in Arbeit und da brauchen wir uns ja um diese Dinge keine Sorgen zu machen.
And the problem comes again back to finding work and so on. The human being has a short memory and the daily concerns still dominate.
Ein Kurzgedächtnis hat oder eine Kurzerinnerung hat und die täglichen Sorgen, wenn man solche überhaupt noch als solche bezeichnen kann, die dominieren eben.
Und da kann man auch mit anderen Leuten sprechen. Ich habe es ja oft genug erlebt, als ich noch im Dienst war und habe...
Also, if you talk with other people about this subject, either they all leave or they change the subject. Nobody wants to hear about it today.
Leute anzugehen, oder sie schmissen einfach ein anderes Thema auf den Tisch. Da will keiner was von hören heute.
Let me tell you, I dreamed too. Oh, of roasted little bodies, of smoke pouring out of... Oops! I guess I'm getting a bit too excited when I think of what's waiting for you. I mean, about what's waiting for them. Them, yes. Always think them. Huh? Okay, I'm getting to that point. Yes. Also, don't forget that if they do come, that I am so fast and efficient that your daddies will not have to spend years in the trenches away from home, fighting like the daddies who fought in the other great wars. This time, there'll be no daddies left. And no mummies too. Oh, I love it. I'll be all over the place.
Entonces ahora vamos a hablar un poco del gasto sobre armamentos en el mundo, que hemos visto es 660.
There are $650 billion a year spent on armaments. We must talk about that and about people's needs.
Mayoría. Yo soy uno.
I am one of them in need.
Sí, güey.
La mayoría.
Mayoría, sí.
I am an example and in the majority.
Aquí en nuestro país de México, sí, la mayoría.
¿Supieron ustedes que gastan tanto?
Did you know about these figures?
¿Supieron que era una cifra tan alta?
Sí.
Sí, es una cifra muy elevadísima cada año. 660 mil millones, billones de dólares. Lo que se podría invertir en la provincia, ¿verdad?
It's a huge amount. This could be invested in the province and all the countries to make some progress, to achieve something in education, in food, in medication. This could change the world.
Para comida, medicina.
Podría cambiar el mundo.
Se podría cambiar el mundo en otro aspecto de vivir mejor.
In other places, people don't realize how we live here.
Hay gente que tenemos tierras y por dinero no las trabajamos.
Necesitan dinero para trabajar las tierras.
Por eso no las trabajamos.
Money is also needed to work the land. We always owe. We always stay in the same position.
¿Creen que sí hablan un poco, por ejemplo, en las noticias y los periódicos y todo, de ese...
Do you think this is discussed on the TV news, this amount spent on arms? Is this figure a surprise to you?
Ver eso, que es tanto, que gastan. Pues casi no se puede imaginar qué tanto es eso, ¿no? Pero no es sorpresa que gasten tanto.
Sí.
Pues
¿Cuánto
sí,
que?
¿Cómo de que no?
Es sorpresa, ¿no? No
Sí.
hablan de eso de todos los días, ¿no?
Sí, un gasto que hacen elevado, ¿eh?
They could use this money to lend to people, to buy machinery, like us here. They could send us some tractors to improve our work. We could have some cows.
Que nos mandaran un tractor, ¿verdad? Para trabajo.
o animales, sea vacas o eso, ¿no? Para ayudarse aquí y no invertir el dinero en otras cosas.
There are only a few lines that mention the atom bomb, and the teacher would say something like, "Wasn't it miserable?" We talked for a bit after class, and then that was the end of it.
もっと知りたいとか聞きたいとか
Do you want to hear more about it? Yes. On such occasions, I always think it would be good to talk with each other. But the teacher just goes on to the next subject.
先生はすぐに先に進んじゃうんで。
On this day of days, I extend the greeting of our Celtic ancestors, a warm 100,000 welcomes to you, Nancy, and your delegation as you arrive here in Canada.
On the early afternoon of Sunday, the 17th of March, 1985, President Ronald Reagan arrives in Quebec City. The Canadian national television coverage of the summit now begins. In the CBC introduction to this political event, which involves key matters relating to the environment and to the nuclear arms race, note the double reference to sporting events.
All right, Don Martin in Toronto, thanks very much. I am Peter Mansbridge with David Halton, and from that big win on the international sports stage in curling in Scotland, Canada now tries to do a little something else on the international stage, this time in politics. President Reagan here in Canada, arriving in Quebec City just a little over half an hour ago for meetings with Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. 24 hours, the visit is, that's how long it is. There are 2 hours of meetings between Prime Minister Mulroney and the President during that period, and also other officials, both men having their cabinet ministers, many of them here with them for this summit. Now, as we said, you saw earlier during Sports Weekend the arrival of President Reagan, the Air Force One touching down, and then the brief arrival ceremonies just outside the plane as Prime Minister Mulroney met with President Reagan. But there was lots more, including statements from both leaders inside a hangar here at Quebec City Airport. Let's go back and look.
C'est pas l'hymne américain qui s'en
At no point, now or later, during the summit coverage, does the Canadian television make reference to a key issue underlying the nature of the relationship between Canada and the United States. Earlier in this same year, an American researcher, William Arkin, revealed that President Reagan had signed a contingency plan that authorizes the deployment of 32 10-kiloton nuclear depth charges to Canada in the event of a war.
The American National Anthem, played by the regimental band of the Royal 22nd Regiment, the Vandoos.
Other countries to which such nuclear weapons would also be sent include Spain, Iceland, the Azores, the Philippines, and the British island of Diego Garcia.
To inspect the Guard of Honor.
In at least two such cases, that of Canada and Iceland, the relevant governments had not been informed of the contingency measures, which are intended to be carried out by the United States without prior consultation.
Of course, Canada was the first country that President Reagan visited after winning in 1980 against Jimmy Carter, visiting here in March of 1981. And it is also the first country that he visits in his second term. There was a third visit to Canada in between that, in the summer of 1981, of course, for the World Economic Summit when it was hosted here in Canada. President Reagan, one of the participants of that. The inspection of the Guard of Honor also made up of members of the Royal 22nd Regiment, based here in Quebec City.
Sam, we're now looking at this graph with all the dots, showing the amount of nuclear explosive power in the world today. Do you share the feelings of helplessness that many people are now experiencing?
Yes and no. It is a pretty staggering thought when you look at this. It makes you think that the madmen are running the asylum. But I think the thing to do is to get active and try and do something about it, and I think if you're taking positive action, you must feel better. You must feel as if you're contributing a little towards the disarming.
And the President, while he's here, of course, will be staying in the Chateau Frontenac, where part of those wartime meetings took place.
Do you think there will be a global nuclear war, Sam?
Well, it certainly looks like it. If people don't get out of their apathy and do something positive about it, there must be.
Inspection of the Guard of Honor complete now, and everything appears to have been found in order.
I feel very worried, but I also feel hopeful, because I think people are beginning to realise. And again, I come back to this area in particular, and the way that people have voted the councillors in. You know, we've got one from the peace camp, and the rest are, you know, the Labour group are all anti-nuclear. So, I mean, there's thousands of people voted them in.
That's here in Dumbarton, is it?
That's in Dumbarton.
It's a very encouraging thought.
That has given me a lot of hope, because you're talking about thousands of people now that have voted against the bomb, but maybe won't go in march or maybe won't do much, but they will go and vote, so therefore the feeling is there, and particularly against Trident in this area.
Inspection of the Guard of Honor complete now, and everything appears to have been found in order.